like my
Hmm.
the people in my building, the office people are going to really scream, saying, "What are you got that here for?"
So is the inversion table the stretching thing?
Yeah,
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Is that the thing where you do crunches leaning both backward and forward? I think they called that a Roman chair in gym class.
no,
Not the same thing?
no.
Oh, okay. So it's actually a table. I mean, it looks like a table, but it does something different.
It basically grabs your ankles
Hmm.
and then you can hang upside down.
Okay.
I don't want to do that. Because I'll die anymore. I don't want to. I can, or
Yeah.
they do have,
Yeah. I mean,
they have a table.
I mean, technically, it's a type of Roman chair. Yeah. Yeah. I see what it does. I saw the illustration here. Yeah. So let's see. Walmart has one for $99. It's the Innova ITX 9400. And then Temu has one called Vavor, and it's foldable and it's for strength training. And
Oh,
then
really?
other sellers include Teeter, Alibaba.com, Factory Pure, and Buy
I'm not
Massage
buying
Table.
a
What?
I'm not buying a teeter. That's sort of commercial garbage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hmm. It says an
They
inversion
have,
table uses gravity to decompress the spine, which may help relieve back pain, though its effectiveness varies among individuals. To use one, you strap yourself in and gradually invert to a position that is comfortable, starting with the small angles and short durations. However, people with certain conditions like hypertension, glaucoma, or high blood pressure should avoid inversion tables as they can decrease pressure in the head, eyes, and heart. Yeah, anyway. Um, Spinal decompression. By hanging upside down or at an angle, gravity helps create space between the vertebrae in your spine. Oh, wow. Alleviates pressure. This decompression can help relieve pressure on spinal discs and nerves that are compressed during daily activities like standing or sitting. Relief. If your back pain is caused by spinal compression, find relief from the decompression provided by an inversion table. Okay. So, yeah, I guess you can't really, you're not really supposed to do crunches with this kind of thing. But yeah, it does look really relaxing. Like it really um, stretches out your both your abs and your
it
back.
throws all your blood to your head.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Just like Charlotte and Charlotte's Web, she likes standing on her head because the blood goes to her head. Yeah, so she can think better. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I'll get out of here, but the problem is, they,
Problem is,
I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do when I go home.
yeah. What do you mean by that? What things need to be taken
Oh,
care of when you go home?
a lot.
Okay. So you mean it's just too much to think about now, huh?
No, I have to think about it.
Okay. Yeah. So So basically, yeah, you're pretty sure they'll hold the apartment for you. Yeah.
What do you mean hold it?
Well, I mean, not give it to someone else.
If I pay the rent.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, what kind of wording did BJ's use when they said they could not retain you, or was it the third party people?
They didn't say anything about that.
Oh, okay. So they sort of said something without saying it.
No,
Did they send you a dinky doo in the mail?
no.
Oh,
How would I know? Like the mail, the mailbox.
oh, yeah, that's right. Well, do they communicate psychically with you? It reminds me of Star Trek 4, where Kirk is explaining to Gillian Taylor, we have ways of communication that you couldn't possibly understand. Remember when Spock does the mind meld on the whale to find out that Gracie is pregnant? Oh, jeez.
Uh, I think if somebody could really do that, it would be great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was on Discovery or some other science kind of channel. They were having a documentary in which they had this family act out as if they could each take an injection that would give them psychic powers instantly, and so like the dad refused for the longest time, and and then he'd keep asking them, what are you talking about, what are you talking about, and of course they wouldn't tell him because they were telepathing to each other, and then finally he gave in and and took the injection, and the first thing he telepathed was, what's for dinner? Because see, the mom and the daughter would be telepathing things all the time that they didn't want the dad to know about. uh, so anyway, the show was emphasizing that if people didn't keep up, with the advancements of society, like getting potentially, psychic powers and stuff like that, then then it would put them at a severe evolutionary disadvantage, so to speak. But anyway, go ahead.
One of the older workers
Mm-hmm.
At the store, he fell down the steps and broke his ribs. So now he's in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the difference between him and you? Will he recover, or will he have to go in a wheelchair too, or have to do a chair thing?
Table? No, he ribs repair themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose God won't pull one of them out and say, "Here's a help me." Huh?
Well, the one that they have for sale, it's super expensive, but I think it's the safest one. Because the other ones, they can tip.
Yeah.
At least it looks safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's a Roman chair?
Well, actually, it doesn't quite look like that. I mean, let's see. So it has. Well, let's see. It has it's it looks almost like it would be like a like a big tall card table, but like without without the platform part of it. Like it has it has cushions. Um, okay, so you lie your lower back on the on the cushion closest to you, and then you put your feet under the cushion on the other side of it, and then you do backward crunches um, by leaning backward and forming like a 90-degree angle between um, your upper body and your lower body, and that's supposed to make the crunches more effective but also more painful. But as they say, no pain, no gain. And you can also do it forward too,
No,
with
that's
your
cool.
with your
That's
belly on on the
That's
front
false.
cushion, and then yeah, I know. It,
That's you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do exercise until it's painful. That's false.
oh, well then, how on earth would you do crunches then, or push-ups, or anything like that, like strength training, like
Well,
resistance training?
you feel until you can't do them, but you don't have to hurt.
Oh, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Actually, you know what? You know what? Yeah, my gym teacher did tell me that you're not supposed to try to do it until you hurt. You're supposed to feel the pull. You're supposed to feel some like mild strain, but you're supposed to try and get the maximum amount of reps without experiencing heavy pain. Because the pain would break down your muscles too quickly. But but if you lightly um, put stress on your muscles without it being like painful, um, then it trains your muscles over a longer period of time to get bigger. So that's why if they want bigger muscles, they tend to focus on lighter weights and more reps, if I remember right. Did you feel like continuing to go through my records and see what's similar between me and you?
Sure.
Okay.
So I think I don't have this much testing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe take a wild guess, or I'll just switch into like generalized terms so you know what I'm talking about. All right. Here goes. The Janus School 1995 summer session diagnostic evaluation for Christopher Chalky. Okay. So Woodcock tests of reading mastery, word identification 11.2 for July 1995 and 14.4 for August 1995. Um, and then for word
Yeah.
attack, 16.9 for July 1995 and 16.9 for August 1995. So, do you know what word attack is?
Yeah.
Okay, did you score good on it, or were you good at it?
I never played it.
All right, let me give you a more general term.
No, I played it at home. Played it at home. I don't know. I probably don't get probably wouldn't get a higher. Well, I did score good on it, but I don't know how you scored on it.
Yeah. Well, um, let me shoot. Identification on Woodcock Johnson. All right. So let's go through those both. Okay. On the Woodcock Johnson tests, WJIV, word identification is measured by the letter word identification subtest, which assesses your ability to decode words by reading them aloud, starting with large letters and progressing to increasingly difficult, less frequent words without needing to know their meaning, providing insight into reading recognition skills. Early items, you identify large letters and then simple words. Later items, you read increasingly complex, less common words aloud from a list. Focus. The task is pure decoding, pronunciation, not comprehension, understanding the word's meaning. Excuse me. Difficulty. Words become less frequent in English as the test progresses, testing phonetic skills and sight vocabulary. What it measures, decoding skills, your ability to sound out and pronounce words. Basic reading skills is a key part of the basic reading skills cluster alongside word attack. Reading fluency/recognition. It shows how well you recognize words automatically. Purpose helps identify reading difficulties like dyslexia by pinpointing decoding weaknesses. Provide scores that can be compared to norms to see if your word identification skills are average, above, or below expectations. Let's see what word attack is about. The word attack subtest on the Woodcock-Johnson Test of Achievement assesses a student's ability to pronounce unfamiliar nonsense words by applying phonic and structural analysis skills. It's a key measure of basic reading skill, starting with letter sounds and progressing to reading letter combinations and invented words, contributing to basic reading skills and phoneme-grapheme knowledge clusters on the WJIV. What it measures, decoding skills, how well a student uses letter sound knowledge, phonics, and word parts, structural analysis, to sound out unknown words. Phonological awareness. Early items often involve matching sounds or letters to pictures. Reading non-words. The core task is reading made-up words, non-words that follow English phonetic rules, but aren't real words, showing true decoding ability. Interesting. So, yeah, are you pretty good at etymology? If you're good at etymology,
No.
you should be good at word attack because etymology involves mostly looking at patterns in letters and words and seeing if they say match up with another word, and like without looking at actual etymologies, that would be a way to come up with like folk etymologies based on things that sound similar, and potentially, writing like satirical song lyrics as well. But anyway, yeah. So like if you see, certain prefixes, suffixes, or middles of words in more place than one, you would at least guess that the second word that you saw with that pattern, was likely from, the same origin, and it's possibly etymologically related, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that they do in the spelling bees too, when they ask what's the origin of the word, and so they figure, what the transformations would have been going from language to language, and then they'll just make the substitution, like a CH for a K, or KH, for a guttural H, that sort of thing. So anyway, diagnostic achievement battery number 2, reading comprehension 7.7 in July 1995 and 7.7 in August 1995. Were you pretty good at reading comprehension?
No.
Okay. 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 What is high score for reading comprehension on diagnostic achievement battery. Says it's generally related to its standardized scores rather than a single maximum number, as raw scores, number of correct answers, vary by age and grade level. Okay. So, the DAB4 4th edition and previous versions use the following scoring metrics. Subtest standard scores, these have a mean or average of 10 and a standard deviation of 3. Scores between 8 and 12 are typically considered within the average range. A significantly above average score, a high score, would be 16 or higher. So I actually scored low on reading comprehension. I scored below average. Wow. Okay. Would you say you scored below average too? on reading comprehension, did you score below average? Okay. So, for the story listening comprehension, I had 7.7 in July 1995 and 8.6 in August 1995. Okay. Okay. So, what is high score for? Let's replace a couple words here. High score for story listening comprehension on diagnostic achievement. The Diagnostic Achievement Battery DAB4 uses standard scores with a mean of 100 and a standard deviation for 15 for its composite scores, including spoken language, which includes the listening comprehension subtest. There is no single raw high score across all age levels, as scores are compared to a normative sample. Okay. So the results are reported using standard scores. Scores between 90 and 109 are generally considered within the average range. Let's see. Scores significantly above this range, 130 and above, are considered very high or indicative of superior performance. Okay. So, percentile rank of 60 or above is considered above average, with higher numbers indicating better performance relative to peers. Age/grade equivalence. These scores indicate the age or grade level at which the student's performance is typical. Oh, okay. Okay, these are grade equivalents. Okay, that makes so much sense. Okay, so let me rephrase everything. So let's see. 1995. What grade was I in? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I think 1990 I was in kindergarten. 1 plus. Okay, so I was in 4th grade at the time. So my word identification grade equivalent score was 11.2 and 14.4, and then my word text scores were 16.9 and 16.9 for July 1995 and August 1995, respectively. So 16th grade would have been college level, I guess, because high school only goes up to 12th grade. Yeah. And then let's see. And then for reading comprehension, I was almost at 8th grade level at a 7.7 for both July and August 1995. And then for story comprehension, I was almost at 8th grade in July, and then above 8th grade in August. And then for math calculation, I was grade 6.2 for July 1995 and 7.2 for August 1995. And then for math reasoning, I was 6.4 for July 1995 and 6.4 for August 1995. Although they did have a 7.4 in parentheses, which I don't know what that means. Um, why put a second number in parentheses next to grade equivalent? Uh, oh, okay. When you see a second number in parentheses next to a grade equivalent, it usually means the main grade is the student's current level, while the number in parentheses indicates the specific month or quarter of that grade level when the skill was mastered or assessed. Oh, showing precision and timeliness for intervention or curriculum planning, often seen in educational assessments. Oh. Mhm. Okay, in standardized tests or progress reports, a score might be grade 4, month 5, 4.5. If a student struggles, a score like 4.5 parentheses 8 means they were at that level in fourth grade, fifth month, but the 8 signifies something else, perhaps the eighth month of the next year, grade 5, month 8. They achieved a similar level or it's the specific assessment number for that skill. Huh, interesting. So, 6.4. Oh, okay, and then it was achieved in grade 7 and 4 months. So I was kind of, I mean, um, no, no, eighth month. No, or the, so it would have been the seventh. Oh, maybe I am right at first. So it would have been seventh grade in 4 months that I got math reasoning because I do remember that I was pretty poor in math reasoning, at least as far as the plug and chug math, not the abstract math.
Me too.
Yeah. So grade 6, month 4 for math reasoning, but then would have would have taken longer to master it. Okay, that makes sense. Did you ever have trouble with math calculation or math reasoning at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I better Google this to be sure. Difference between math calculation and math reasoning. Okay. Math calculation is the act of computing an answer. Okay, the plug and chug. 2 plus 2 equals 4. While math reasoning is the higher level thinking to understand why that answer is correct, which methods to use, and how to apply math to solve complex problems or build logical arguments. Well, see, that's the thing. It was more abstract for me. So if I had thought of it more abstractly rather than exactly matching the symbols, that I wouldn't have been confused by the symbols. I should have been able to make my own symbols. But yeah, because because the fact that they were trying to teach more plug and chug math, um, stuff that was grounded in like worldly professions and stuff like that, seems like it kind of distracted me from obtaining better abstract mathematical reasoning. But that is the way that things were. I don't know if you remember, but like in the 80s when we were fighting the Soviet Union in the Cold War, um, the government put forth a whole lot of extra money um, to train scientists, mathematicians, statisticians, um, stuff like that, and risk risk analysts. And now we're sort of getting into that kind of thing again, um, where they're basically supposed to calculate the possibility of like, us getting a new enemy in some kind of random terrorist group overseas or something like that. I mean, depending on, there is a way to calculate, for a certain amount uh, of characteristic of a certain type, and then put it through this, machine worth of different compartments. Um, I mean, it's not a literal machine, but it's like how they compartmentalize the math for computing, the likely actions of different tiers of political powers, if you will, and their likelihood to compete with each other and so on, if they're on supposedly the same side. Um, so anyway, what do you think of all that?
And
Okay, here's this. Were you okay with addition, subtraction, multiplication, or applying formulas?
uh,
Addition, subtraction, multiplication, or applying formulas. My dear Aunt Sally, you ever have any trouble with that? How about basic arithmetic, algorithms, and memorized facts? Now, that's all math calculation. Math reasoning includes thinking critically, logically, and creatively about mathematical problems and concepts. Skills include identifying patterns, constructing logical arguments, and selecting appropriate strategies, as well as connecting different areas of math. Are you familiar with different areas of math?
yeah,
And on those IQ tests that they have all the different shapes you're supposed to match up, were you pretty decent at that part? Especially when you're supposed to look at the rotated shapes and predict which one is supposed to be next in the pattern. Do you remember that? Remember that at all? Okay, whatever. Um, and see, the example they give, even for math reasoning, still a plug and chug kind of thing. It's a real world application. Figuring out how to calculate the total cost of a shopping trip, including discounts and tax, by choosing the right operations in order, as in the Chris's travel time problem. But the thing is, like, for the things that actually matter, in the abstract, which can affect the real world more than we think, things like supply chain economics and stuff like that. I mean, that's still a real world application, but you would have to apply higher reasoning to it. But what about quantum physics? I mean, like, all the spiritual people are talking about quantum physics, but like, they don't want to pay for anybody to go to school for quantum physics. They want everybody to work in a factory. That's what K-12 education is for, to make sure that you're a good farmer or factory worker. It's not supposed to let you go on um, to, like, advanced medicine or physics or any other science field. So that's a big problem. It's the education system that's making people into stupid little workers. Anyway, the DAB math reasoning subtests require students to listen to math problems and perform the calculations without the use of paper or other aids. Chris wrote some of his calculations on his answer sheet during the administration of the test. Oh, interesting. The score in parentheses is the score that he would receive if he had done all of his calculations in his head and arrived at the same answers. While the grade equivalent score of 6.4 is a reflection of the most rigid interpretation of the testing norms, it is evident that Chris possesses reasoning skills that exceed even his ability to succeed with simultaneous reasoning and mental computation. Oh. Oh. So they're saying basically I pulled stuff out of a hat or from some kind of spiritual source. What do you think of that? Isn't
All
that
right.
isn't that bizarre though? That they would basically say that I have some weirdo way of like intuiting things, even though even if I don't know how to do it with the knowledge, or if I lack the computation ability. Like if I have a hunch about something.
Yeah, I tried to do that one time. And I actually pulled it out of there, and in sixth grade, I couldn't even do the math because they were way ahead of me.
You mean way ahead of you in factory math?
Yeah, or any.
No, I dare say that there's no way they were doing number theory or philosophical math at that point. They wouldn't have even made it to differential equations or matrices at that level. See, I'm talking about totally different things. I mean, I'm talking about like intuitive geometry and stuff like that. Just scrap all the symbols. Remember when you might have not seen the movie, but in the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, the instructor gets tired of the poor kid staring at the chessboard, so he just takes his hand and smacks all the chess pieces off the chessboard, and he's like, "This should be a lot easier." But see, that's the thing. It's the chess pieces themselves that are distractful to the young boy, um, because the chess master knows that the kid possesses the reasoning to be able to, make um, complex things happen with the board. But it's just that maybe it's about being bogged down into the details, like um, seeing the trees and thinking it's the forest. You know. I know I word that differently than a lot of other people do, but uh, that's the way it makes more sense to me. um, okay, so language arts report for Christopher Trochty, August 4th, 1995. Chris participated in a daily language arts class during summer school. The class focused on 3 goal areas: grammar, composition, and comprehension. What? How'd you do with those?
I have more.
Mr. Gabby Fenton and your muscle.
Where's my bustle lecture? Where's the bustle lecture? Oh, wait, what is it?
I don't know how to pronounce it. Starts with T.
Oh, that's it.
Something like that.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I took the pills before, but man, it's like, are they cutting me down with the prednisone?
Prednisone? Yeah, you'll do this morning. You were getting 3,
Okay, cool.
so they'll bring you off of it. That'll be right.
All right. Okay, thank you. Oh, I got more. Thank you.
Okay, got it?
So speaking of which, are these medications also improving your creative thinking? Are they making you loopy?
No.
Are they putting you into the 5th dimension?
No, they're not doing anything but destroy it.
Oh, geez, no mini moons and suns flying around or anything like that. No angels appearing. No, I'm sorry. Never mind. Okay. Okay. So, how are you at grammar, composition, and comprehension? Like language arts in general. Okay. All right. Goal area grammar. Grammatical skills reviewed and practiced this summer included parts of speech, sentence structure, types of sentences, um, capitalization, and punctuation. How are you with capitalization and punctuation?
I wasn't good. I was terrible with forever.
Oh, okay. Like parts of speech. Oh, that explains why you speak in small phrases of 2 or 3 words sometimes and expect everybody to know what the subordinate clause is going to be. Okay, that makes sense. Um, okay, types of sentence. Yeah, my 12th grade high school teacher, who was also incidentally my ninth grade high school teacher for English, she gave us like a list of something like 30 different sentence types, including ones with ellipses, ones with dash instead of hyphen, that kind of thing. Dash is the long one, hyphen is the short one, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris demonstrated a solid understanding of nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Following only a brief review, he was able to define them, explain their use, and identify them in sentences. Were you able to do those things? You know
I was able.
what?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Okay. Chris could explain what was needed to make a complete sentence and could accurately identify them in structured exercises. Okay. So you know how to point out nouns, verbs, and adjectives, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When asked to proofread his own work, he benefited from the use of a checklist. Oh, were you pretty good at using rubrics to grade yourself?
I never heard of it.
Oh, well, it's basically a checklist that says what you need to get an A, what you need to get a B, what you need to get a C, blah, 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 blah. You've never seen one of those before?
No.
Oh, wow.
Probably.
Yeah, in Catholic school, they would hand those out all the time. Yeah.
We had a.
I mean,
Yeah.
I figured you'd only use that if you were running out of time, and you figured you'd take a little bit more of a crappy grade, to save time to make sure you got it done on time.
Oh.
What?
Well, our English teacher, I don't know. She was nice. She was nice, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's just my opinion that English teachers can be super nice or super mean, but I won't go into that right now. Let's see here. Let's see. Chris was able to identify and generate examples of 4 types of sentences: statement, question, command, exclamation, and apply correct end punctuation. You did fine with all those types, right?
No. When it came to, I always got common places and stuff like that.
Yeah, but like, well, well, the thing is, you seem to get confused when I say something like a statement, but I mean it as a question.
Oh,
But did you know that?
yeah.
Did you know that in Spanish, like the intonation of asking a question is like the way that we make a statement,
Yeah.
except for the no at the end, which is like using net in German or not in Pennsylvania Deutsch. Yeah.
Oh, I just dropped the cup.
Hmm.
Uh,
And then I guess the nook that's used in Schläfst du Nocht, for um, the Brother John, Are You Sleeping song. We sang it as Bruder Jakob schläfst du Nacht. Um, uh, hörst du nicht die Glocken? Bim bam bim. uh, did you ever hear any German when you were growing up at all, especially around this area in the Reading area?
Mike upspoke German. That's what they. I never. We never. He never taught. He never taught me.
Mm-hmm. You said your grandpa?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and it says in structured exercises, Chris should always be encouraged to explain the reasoning behind his answers. E.g., green is an adjective because it answers the question, "What kind of grass?" Do you ever have trouble with the 5 W's?
5 W's.
Yeah, the who, what, where, why, and when. See, the thing is, you would say the grass is green, but then it seems like you would forget to say why the grass is green, where you see the green grass, who planted it.
You know, we did all that, but I never. I really couldn't tell you that I would know how to do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, to be honest, you and I have had a lot of conflicts over this because, that's one of the reasons why I feel you don't necessarily make your sentences into complete thoughts. And don't worry, you're not the only one. The thing is, people think it's annoying when I ask for basic information like the 5 W's and stuff like that. There's people who just do not want to be questioned, and they expect to live in peace, as if asking questions or having access to them whatsoever is is like a, a nuisance. Well, not even a nuisance. It almost seems like murder, to to some of them. When you, well, especially all the different staff of Pennsylvania Stands Up. See, they never want to be bothered. They just want to collect money and social capital for themselves. That they hide out in an office, but they don't want any accountability to ordinary members. Anyway, and they think it's some kind of special accommodation to actually talk to someone. To actually talk to someone as if they're normal, Um, so I don't know what it is, except similar to with places like Walmart. The narcissists and psychopaths always move up the chain really quick because they can be cold hearted, and they can be like, I guess, like Sister Ann Damien was to us at OMPH, shape up or ship out. you know uh if you ask too many questions, you're disrespectful and fresh. Did anybody ever tell you that, like, when you were misbehaving, that you were fresh? Do you remember that kind of thing? Oh my god. But then she misused scapegoat for um, Tierpak. I forget what his first name was, Joey Tierpak, and she said he's no scapegoat. He's in trouble today, and then and then she would pull like one kid out of the room at a time and like grill them just outside the door, you know. Yeah, well, because the thing is, the recess ladies would always say, we give you an inch, you take a mile, and with like 35 boys and only 6 girls, the class was bound to get rowdy. And and the thing was, they would be, trying to play football, but um, you know, um, they had to ban the tackle football because people were actually, getting head injuries and stuff like that, and having to go to the hospital and stuff like that, for arm injuries or leg injuries and stuff like that, you know. And so they started to allow flag football, but then they changed their mind about football at recess too. Some of those kids, well, anyway.
Well, when you go to Catholic school, they really push the learning. I probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with it.
Well, the thing is, I was ahead in the sciences because they fit in an extra science class, but I was actually behind in math, and a lot of the tips and tricks of the trade, that were taught at the Cocalico Middle School, I wasn't exposed to, and so when I went into algebra, the first algebra class in Cocalico High School, I was basically just winging it, and I did find winging it, with a B plus and stuff like that. But I think the thing was I was just getting too obsessed with the details, like, well, I mean, like irrelevant details, because like when I went to pre-calculus um, and Mr. Gingrich asked me to make like a story out of it, I tried to anthropomorphize the math symbols. And it wasn't working out too well. It was taking way too long. Then I also had this Spanish project that I was supposed to do, and then I turned it into, instead of a project on characteristics of the ideal girlfriend, they were supposed to be simple characteristics. I turned it into like some kind of photo essay about gossip about my classmates and stuff like that. And I got a 0 on that assignment in Spanish class, and of course, like,
Why?
um, because the Spanish teacher didn't think I made an apples to apples comparison of the perverted jokes that he was making and the kind of perverted things that I was saying about, female classmates. So he wanted to show that in the real world, it would have been against the law and that I likely would have been sued and lost everything and would have had to start all over again in life, for making a sexist comment, you know, even though I thought, even though I thought that because, he would insult celebrities, that that it was, quote, right to make fun of of female celebrities and stuff like that. But then I just didn't, it just didn't calculate in my brain, or didn't compute that, you know, um, it girls at my high school were not the same as celebrity women. So there were a lot of overgeneralizations and undergeneralizations that I made that weren't necessarily quite just the ADHD, which is why the Asperger's diagnosis made more sense for me. Do you get that kind of thing too? I mean, like where you might like overgeneralize or undergeneralize, and then because of your trauma, you might get mad at something that, say, somebody didn't intend to do, and then you'll be like, no, you meant what you said. You meant exactly what I said you said, and you know, you, it just sounds like to do that kind of thing. But we already have a little bit of a disagreement on, what constitutes a joke and what is safe to joke about and what is not, you know, um, depending on who it is you're talking about. And the thing is, I have real trouble, differentiating, the appropriate situations. And half the time, I think people are just making up the rules as they go along. I'm not saying this against you in particular. Uh, I think you're just, sensitive to a lot more things than the average person in general. But um, but yeah, I have made people mad just about everywhere I've gone, even with like trusted friends and stuff like that.
Totally true.
What? What do you
Very
mean?
true.
What ain't true? What ain't true?
You can't say that you did it. Made people mad everywhere you go. That's
Hmm.
just not true.
Hmm.
What
Well,
do you mean by
well. Considering the last report, let me see if I can find that again. Um, the report that I'm referring to should be on the last page. Attribution. That's the word they used. Attribution. So, um, usually they speak of false attribution bias, if you will, in psychology, which is essentially, um, when it's someone other than ourselves, we blame the person's character. Um, and then when it's ourselves, we say it's an external situation having an effect on us. um, but let me get more detail on the specifics of this. Um, uh, I know they said something about it in particular. So adaptation. Uh, all areas of communication, word retrieval, and memory skills with errors characteristic of attention deficit. Let's see here. Let's say attribution errors. Neuromaturation. Okay. Why don't I um algebraically combine those two concepts? Um, what in neuromaturation deficiency causes what was the other word? False attribution. um, um, and believing someone is mean uh, when they don't have mean intent. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. Neuromaturation deficiency causes false attribution, specifically a hostile attribution bias, due to atypical development in brain regions responsible for social information processing and the development of theory of mind (TOM). Yeah, and the thing is, see, people would do that to me all the time, and they'd be like, "You knew exactly what you were doing, and you planned to do X and Y and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "How on earth are you reading all of that?" you know, but because it obviously wasn't true. But the thing is, that's apparently how disciplinarians are taught to read. They're taught to essentially like hallucinate their mind reading, for people who are different, if you will. Um, how do you feel about that? Hello? Am I on hold again? Oh, he hung up. Why? Dropped call.
It's yeah.
Okay. Okay. So where do we finish? So hostile attribution bias. I notice that you'll sometimes do that, and you'll be like, you knew exactly what you were doing. You were trying to do X and Y. You were trying to destroy my property. You were, it had to be you who was stealing all of my things. That kind of thing. So it's using intuition as if it's a calculation, but that's a mismatch because calculation is supposed to be logic, and and intuition is supposed to be non-logical. It's supposed to be a hunch, basically. So um, anyway, key mechanisms. The primary factors contributing to this misinterpretation include impaired theory of mind. Theory of mind is the cognitive ability to understand that others have their own beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that may differ from one's own. A neuromaturation deficiency can delay or impair the development of this ability, making it difficult to infer the benign intentions behind others' actions. This can lead to misreading neutral cues and attributing negative intent, e.g., assuming someone is mean when they are just concentrating. Difficulties integrating contextual cues. Oh, you know what? Basically, so I applied what I learned from Pennsylvania Stands Up to my support staff because, of course, obviously, if I get mad at my support staff, even if RAC knows that my support staff is my support staff, they don't think I'm ever supposed to get angry. They don't think anybody is ever supposed to get angry, um, or raise their voice or anything like that. So I don't know, like it's just a bizarre new form of policing or whatever. But anyway, instead of asking my support staff for anything, I just assumed that, as I've been told, that that they have no obligation to me. They just sit there and collect money from the state. Um, just like the people at Pennsylvania Stands Up. They're just there to collect money and work at a desk. You know, your time is theirs and their time is theirs. You just don't bother with them at all. If they happen to ever get something done for you, great, but don't assume that anybody who works in an office is ever supposed to do anything for you whatsoever, because basically, as an institution, they are, in biblical symbolism, like a woman. Like they're all within that one body, but it acts like a woman. So so in other words, it is the sacred victim of society, so to speak. As is the church, so to speak. um, and the church tries to reflect what the political sphere does to the common people in society. And obviously, the church tries to help people deal with the politics rather than necessarily fighting back against the politics. Because you figure it's out of your control and it's in God's hand, right? That kind of makes sense.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry, did I go way too far with that?
no.
Okay. So the thing is, every time you deal with an institution, think of it as an extremely fragile woman who the powers that be have decided are entitled to everything and owe nothing to you. Okay? And they can take anything they want from you, as, as long as you just agree with the bare minimum, that that they're doing. um and and a lot of people choose not to get involved with these organizations because they don't want to make an ass out of themselves, because they know they will, because these organizations are not meant for the average person. These organizations are meant for those super hard-nosed, like people who are making like $100,000 or more in the C-suite of a major corporation in New York City, like a finance corporation, if you will. So, obviously the question is, why are these people working for Pennsylvania Stands Up and not for like Goldman Sachs or Ernst and Young LLP and Lehman Brothers or whatever, or Enron? you know why I mentioned Lehman Brothers and Enron, right?
No.
Well, it's because I'm being dicey, if you will. How do you say that? I'm being sarcastic because Enron was a energy company that failed due to mismanagement, and yet those people, at the top, they all gave themselves a golden parachute as if they were really important when they really weren't. And and then Lehman Brothers, they're the ones who created the $800 billion bailout for Wall Street that the Gang of Eight had to work on in Congress, for weeks.
Well, you're educating now.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we had a lot stronger legislation before we had the post World War II things like Bretton Woods, and we used to have like a stronger Dodd-Frank Act. We used to have I don't remember if it was the Stiegel Act that Clinton used to deregulate the banks and stuff like that. Of course, that deregulation should have never happened because the bank in my small town of Reamstown, which had a population of 2,000 back in 1990 or something like that, that bank changed hands about like 6 times over the course of my parents living there. So, like before I was born, it was American Bank, and then when I was a young kid, it was Meridian. Then it changed to Core States. Then it changed to Wachovia. Then it changed to oh no, wait a minute. It was First Union before it was Wachovia. So it was American, Meridian, Core States, First Union, Wachovia, and then Wells Fargo. And then of course a couple years ago it closed. So now everybody in Reamstown has to drive all the way to the Brownstown location if they want to do banking with a person or use a Wells Fargo ATM. Now, interestingly, Reamstown even used to have its own ATM across from the Sunoco, which I used a couple times over the years, but of course they got rid of that pretty quick. I mean, it's very lucky that like Ephrata National Bank is still around, because
well, there is one thing, an observation I wanted to tell you.
Yes.
Yeah. You remember things,
Mhm.
in a very lengthy
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
way, and I remember things in a short way.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it's because of my cerebral palsy or if it's just the way I am. Remember long lines of music.
Yeah. There's also something I wanted to look up. Okay, so the Graham-Leach-Billy Act of 1999, signed by President Bill Clinton, was the legislation that repealed large parts of the Depression-era Glass-Steagall Act, effectively allowing commercial and investment banking to merge, which is a key part of financial deregulation. This deregulation enabled larger, more complex financial institutions and is often cited as a contributing factor to the 2008 financial crisis, though its role is debated.
Taste out of my mouth. It's like, well.
Okay. Glass-Steagall in 1933 separated commercial lending deposits and investment banking securities. Graham-Leach-Billy Act in 1999 repealed key Glass-Steagall provisions, allowing banks to become financial supermarkets offering both services. Clinton's role: President Clinton signed the Graham-Leach-Billy Act into law in November 1999. Impact: created financial holding companies and increased the size and interconnectedness of banks, contributing to a permissive lending environment. Interesting. So, yeah. Oh, yes. Time magazine has a great article entitled 25 People to Blame for the Financial Crisis. And Bill Clinton is one of them. I got to pee real quick. All right. So, let me just fact check everything I've been saying. Okay. What was Dodd-Frank Act? Oh, okay. So the Dodd-Frank Act, Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, was a massive 2010 U.S. law created after the 2008 financial crisis to prevent future meltdowns by increasing financial regulation, protecting consumers, and improving transparency and accountability in the financial system. Establishing the CFPB, bringing derivatives trading onto exchanges, and introducing stress tests for large banks. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to oversee mortgages, credit cards, and other consumer financial products, ensuring fair practices. End too big to fail. Increase transparency, regulate banks, improve accountability. All right, so what was Bretton Woods? Okay, so Bretton Woods created in 1944 fixed exchange rates pegged to the US dollar, which was convertible to gold, and founding the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to promote stability and reconstruction, a system that collapsed in the early 1970s but left lasting institutions. Interesting. So in 1971, President Nixon ended the dollar's convertibility to gold, effectively ending the fixed exchange rate system by 1973, leading to floating exchange rates. Okay, so why are floating exchange rates dangerous for the economy? There we go. Floating exchange rates can be risky due to unpredictable volatility, which scares investors and complicates trade by making profits uncertain, and costs fluctuate wildly, potentially causing imported inflation if currency falls or hurting exports if it strengthens. This instability can trigger speculative attacks, damage fragile banking systems, especially in emerging markets with foreign debt, and force disruptive resource shifts, creating financial instability despite offering central banks freedom to set monetary policy. Interesting. So it appears that the central government has gone to war with the central bank, um, especially over the issue of tariffs and stuff like that, and America First and stuff. So it's actually destroying the economy by putting us into unpredictable volatility, and it's scaring away investors and complicating trade. Businesses need to be certain of profit in order for capitalism to survive. Doesn't look like it will. Hmm. So anyway, here we are. Okay. Theory of mind is the cognitive ability to understand that others have their own beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that may differ from one's own. I think the key thing is establishing the right for other people to have their own beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives differing from one's own, and have that actually carried out as a rule of acceptance. What do you think of that? Do you still have trouble with tolerating uh, homosexuality, or tolerating um, Islam, or what's the thing in this world that you have the biggest beef with? What are your red flags or your pet peeves?
Mm.
I think what with the power that those words convey is that I'm really a good person, but I have to do something bad in order to show that I'm good. So like you're playing, like, I don't know, like the Men in Black or whatever, doing the bad for a good purpose, if you will, right? So
Yeah.
so the thing is, but all right. I mean, admit to me, if you're not so fragile, what are your pet peeves and your red flags, so to speak?
Mm. It's just like
Well, let's put it this way.
people.
Go ahead.
I think people should help each other more.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if I was doing something that violated one of your red flags or pet peeves, do you think 100 other people would help you gang up on me for violating any of those, unwritten rules or whatever?
No,
Um,
they probably take your side.
really? Well, the thing is, it seems to me that most of the time when I'm in like any sort of familiar group, um, most people will ally against me, and will even use bad behavior, and and misattributed teacher authority in the case of the Spanish teacher in high school, um, to essentially use the disciplinary rhetoric of the teacher to bully me. Um, I don't think the teacher necessarily believed that he was assisting the most immature boys in the class to bully me, uh, and allowing them to steal his rhetoric, but that's the way it felt. And the thing is, if feelings mean nothing, well, then I guess you can just do whatever you want, no matter how it hurts other people. That's also one of the things that Heather Cox Richardson was saying, when she was talking about the Pilgrims versus the Puritans, and the one group believed eventually that if God tells them they can do something, it doesn't matter if it hurts other people, as long as, quote, God says it's right. So that indicates, well, an impaired theory of mind, if I'm understanding this correct. Uh, you know, Disregarding the rights of others to have their own beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that may differ from one's own. But anyway, and specifically, she had mentioned the part, where the religion, or people from the religion, believe they and they alone know the will of God, know what's right for everyone else, and need 100% power from the government, if you will, to carry out the beliefs of that religion or that sub portion of the religion. um, Difficulties integrating contextual cues. The brain system is involved in integrating verbal and nonverbal social cues, such as facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice, with the current context may be affected. This makes it harder to process the full picture of an interaction, leading to a reliance on dispositional explanations, personality traits, rather than situational factors. Well, the thing is, I can tell you that basically there are a lot of men in this society who will have no pity for women at all if anything affects them, from the Trump administration, and it's unfortunate, but it just seems to be, you know, for the moment of a fact of life, unless we get somebody in there who tries to reverse a lot of these things. For example, there are some people at Heritage Foundation who actually want to take away women's right to vote. They they might even want to take away women's right to work, as Margaret Atwood proposed in that novel, Handmaid's Tale. But anyway, atypical neural processing, specific brain regions, including the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, involved in social evaluation and emotion regulation, and the medial prefrontal cortex, involved in mental state inference, show different activity patterns in individuals with hostile attribution bias or neurodevelopmental conditions like autism spectrum disorder. Now, that's the thing, because if I'm facing a woman will always, if she senses the same thing coming out of me that comes from, say, a domestic abuser or whatever, she's going to see me as having the exact same beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives as that abusive romantic partner, even though I would have never had a chance at romance ever, but and so that's phenomenon is called pseudo narcissism. The autistic person is essentially a pseudo narcissist, but not literally a narcissist, because the autistic person is not psychopathic enough that they can't be reasoned with. Does that make sense? Sort of. Have you ever encountered that sort of theory of mind kind of thing? Yeah.
I would like to do that.
Executive functioning difficulties. Challenges with executive functions, such as working memory and emotional regulation, can contribute. When individuals struggle to regulate their emotions, they may jump to conclusions more quickly and perceive interactions in an overly negative light. I've felt that white women tend to do that more to me because I have nothing to do with them. I'm just trying to find my way around in life, I'm not looking for any more, breathing room or like abstract space, if you will. I don't try and take over a space. Perceptual salience. The observable behavior of the person becomes more prominent than the unobserved external factors that might explain their actions. This makes it easier to blame the person's character rather than consider their circumstances, e.g., they didn't say hello because they are rude, not because they were in a rush. In essence, neuromaturation deficiencies can disrupt complex automatic processing of social information, making social situations feel unpredictable and leading to default or negative bias when interpreting ambiguous behavior. Well, that's the thing. Like, for the dominant culture, when an institution is coming down hard on a vulnerable person, obviously they're going to say, only the institution is right, and it's the individual that has to be made to understand the institution's needs, as if the institution is a flesh and blood person. And so that's why, me or Richard might come across as, calling people, calling individuals that are tied to institutions, assholes, rather than, rather than pausing and thinking, well, maybe I should just withdraw from all institutions because I clearly don't belong, here at work or school or anything that has, some form of central leadership and and needs to take more than it gives. And then of course and needs its staff to act brainwashed and ignorant and cold-hearted uh, to the average worker or attendee or whatever you know so anyway, um I'm not saying that anyone is deliberately trying to be an asshole, but I also reserve the right to to vent my feelings because um, because the thing is, you're not going to make me hold in my feelings, just like a lot of you out there don't hold in your feelings, and you feel the need to just be everywhere I am and harass me here and there and make sure I don't hold a job and so on and so forth. Yeah.
She's from Egypt. She actually wanted to give me her fancy pen. I thought, oh boy.
Mhm.
And it was her daughter that gave it.
Yeah.
Gave it to her.
Uh-huh.
Well, I didn't want
Uh-huh.
to because that would be selfish.
Yep. Yeah, I never really liked shellfish.
Selfish.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know.
No, but the thing is, you, I can't even speak to my phone and it understands my words anymore.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
Wow.
don't pronounce it.
Yeah.
I don't pronounce it good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Let's see here. Where did this come from? What is this? Oh. um. Let's see here. So the thing is, if if a liberal black person accused a white person of being racist, well, obviously the white person will never believe that they were being racist, and and the black person will never believe that the white person wasn't being racist unless they become you know um, supportive of, well, white supremacy. um, oh, and here's another example of that sort of attribution thing. So um, this is manipulation of the definitions of attribution. So accusations of anti-Semitic tropes, actions such as framing American Jews who vote for Democrats as, quote, disloyal to Israel, have drawn accusations of invoking the anti-Semitic dual loyalty trope. Critics argue this rhetoric undermines rather than defends Jewish safety within the United States. Quote, pro-Israel anti-Semitism. Some analysts have used the term pro-Israel anti-Semitism to describe a dynamic in which support for the state of Israel coexists with or even feeds off of hostility towards American Jews. This perspective suggests that the MAGA movement sees Israel as a strategic asset while simultaneously marginalizing American Jewish communities. Okay, let's make a substitution real quick. Let's see if this also applies to women. Pro-woman anti-feminism. Some analysts have used the term pro-woman anti-feminism to describe a dynamic in which support for women in leadership positions coexists with or even feeds off of hostility towards American women. This perspective suggests that um, the patriarchal movement sees women as a strategic asset while simultaneously marginalizing American female communities. There we go. Makes perfect sense. Anyway, so let's go back to this these test results. Okay, green is an adjective because it answers the question, what kind of grass? His understanding of subjects and verbs is such that he is ready to be introduced to the concept of clauses. Chris would benefit from maintaining a reference section of grammar rules that he could review independently. Goal area. Oh, by the way, have you ever, you said you had trouble with grammar, right? Okay. Goal area, composition. The starting point in this area was developing an understanding of the building block analogy of the relationship between words, sentences, paragraphs, and essays. Are you pretty good at writing?
You got anything? Let me take it.
And water running down my arm.
More pills, more pills.
Let me see.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Pills for everyone. Pills are mandatory.
No, she did lunch. The lunch. They really make you eat fast. Ooh.
Oh, lunch. Yeah. Yeah. I realized that that food is more important than medicine, or as Hippocrates used to say, "Let thy medicine be thy food, and thy food be thy medicine."
You before.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just in this one.
Oh.
I'm Sharon. I'm one of their aides.
Oh, okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I usually work in the front up there.
Oh, okay.
You done yet?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So words, sentences, paragraphs, and essays for writing. You ever have trouble with writing?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your specific difficulty with writing?
Well, I don't know. I'm not calmest places and comma. Using commas in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about paragraph structure? Were your paragraphs, pretty much the same length, like cookie cutter? So there's the cookie cutter kind of thing is supposed to be, you do your thesis statement, then you do 3 paragraphs on 3 different topics, and then you sort of combine the information in the 3 paragraphs before, and then you restate your thesis in the conclusion somehow, and then that's supposed to be an essay. That's the simplest way I can explain it. Did you have trouble understanding those things?
Well, I used to get C's because I really.
All right.
Really
Did you make outlines? Did you do topic sentence at the beginning of every
Yeah,
paragraph?
all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris tended to hurry through his assigned writing, methodically proofreading his work with a writing checklist prior to turning it in, helped to eliminate some of his careless mistakes. It is recommended that he continue this. Oh. Okay. Chris has been receiving individualized instruction in a daily 35-minute tutorial. Oh yeah, that was when I actually had to leave the regular classroom and go with some specialized tutor. His initial formal and informal diagnostic testing indicated that Chris's tutorial should not be focused on the basic linguistic skills, but should be a combination of the more advanced linguistic comprehension and an appreciation and understanding of social situations. Did anyone ever tell you that you had trouble with social situations, especially with linguistic comprehension? No? Okay. Okay. Did you ever have trouble with basic linguistic skills?
What?
Hey, this is Joe from across the street.
Linguistics.
Yes, linguistic skills. So usually goes something like semiotics, then semantics, then syntax, uh, then like grammar, um, and then like word choice, and then like phonics. You familiar with those terms at all? No? Okay.
Never had that.
Do you know what semantics means though?
No.
Okay, so it means the big picture of the meaning of an essay or a book or any kind of work of literary art.
I see.
So the idea is that general semantics is more of like the general feel of things, where you can apply the things that are in common with multiple fields, to one project, and you don't need so many different specialists, to figure that out, so to speak. You can integrate things from multiple fields into your project. So that's why the Venus project is like that. That's why he can use any field he wants to, to build the prototype for that thing, potentially.
Okay.
Especially because the emergent properties are pretty much guaranteed by the fact that that so many fields are being utilized and combined in a way that they've never been allowed to be combined before, including the immediate use of new technologies. That would be like how they were able to make the COVID vaccine so quickly, because of the existing infrastructure, and they were able to put it into law immediately to make sure that it benefited the majority of people as soon as possible. Whereas in reality, most medical school studies at teaching hospitals, they don't actually go into practice in law across the nation for like an average of 17 years. So they'll be released in the medical journals, but only people whose school pays for them to have the subscription can access these very niche journals and articles and stuff that are no doubt in depth. But this goes into the larger debate about open source access for things. I know they have stuff like this for linguistics and math and physics and stuff like that, and computer science, but there's still a lot of fields that don't have some kind of open source release format where professors can go directly to people who just have a fascination for their subject. I've tried to write Penn State professors before, about their area of research in the hopes that maybe I could get into it or something like that. And I never got any response because they usually don't have time because they're working so much on their research. It's like the whole publish or perish thing. So like Shibley was trying to say, most professors don't have time to improve their teaching or improve their students' thinking. It's just very cut and dry, the way a lot of professors teach their students. And so that's why it appears that students are not really equipped to, work with their fields or the world in general. And I read an article about, how postgraduate science studies are pretty much a bummer, and people are saying they're pointless. You're just, slaves again and stuff like that. There have been stories about, how like people running the PhD programs, they just try and not let the student's thesis pass so that they can keep the student working for them indefinitely. That's what happened to my my Aunt Peggy, who lives in the state of Washington, she was going to try and get a PhD in anthropology, but whoever was running the program just wanted to keep her as a research assistant. Anthropology.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So she only has the bachelor's, but my one of my cousins, Zach or Gabe, has found Aunt Peggy's old diploma from college, and they're saying, you know, you should be making so much more money because you have a bachelor's degree, and you should give us so much more and stuff like that. Yeah. but, but the thing is, see, expectations are made by what we were told when we were growing up and stuff like that, that education gets you somewhere. But the fact of the matter is, education alone doesn't get you somewhere. And the thing is, they keep moving the cheese of the definition of what actually gets you somewhere, and I'm saying somewhere above the average person who works in a factory, which is just a step above somebody working in a restaurant. So it's like, it's not like people want to be exceedingly successful or anything. They just want to be able to make a living wage. and people act like, we're like ungrateful and entitled and spoiled and stuff like that, just because we want to make enough money to live comfortably, instead of popping out kids first and then begging the government for the money that we're losing, and saying, "Oh, it's people of color who are doing that. Can't be us who are making the kids without having enough money. We just caught in a bad situation, because the economy turned bad, and we didn't expect that to happen once we had 4 kids. Oh my God." Or once we got married and got a mortgage and started paying off the house and stuff like that. I mean, most people under the age of 40 will never be able to get a mortgage because of the stupid way that the credit system works. You either were born as a boomer or you get nothing as far as lending, pretty much these days. I mean, you lucked out. I mean, I have to say that. You lucked out. All right. Anyway, so let's go back to this thingy, if I can find it.
Oh, I go to the bathroom. There's no button.
Yeah, there are some days where I wish I could just pee in a bucket, especially if I'm stuck out in the middle of nowhere and like there's no open gas station nearby that has a bathroom that customers can use and stuff like that. Actually, you know what? NPR did a report on that whole thing. I think they called the report "The Right to Go." Okay. What did NPR say in its report about the right to use a bathroom? I mean, oh, okay. So they're talking about transgender stuff. Let me see. In the right to use a bathroom, other than the transgender issue. No, that's not what I'm looking for. What did NPR say in its report about its lack of public restrooms? There we go. NPR reports that the U.S. lacks sufficient public restrooms because they aren't prioritized as a public good, with costs, maintenance, safety concerns, and the pandemic exacerbating the problem, leading to a reliance on private businesses or inadequate facilities, creating issues for the homeless, delivery drivers, and general public, though some cities are exploring high-tech solutions. Key points from NPR reports. Not a priority. Public restrooms aren't seen as a core public service like schools or roads, making it hard to get funding, notes public health law professor Rick Weinmeier on Planet Money. Oh, and by the way, if somebody has to hold their urine for more than an hour, they risk infection and stuff like that. But some people have had to drive all the way home before they can use the bathroom. It's ridiculous, especially if they commute from the suburbs to the city, stuff like that. Oh, and by the way, Reading sealed off its old public restrooms. They called them comfort stations before, and they said it's there's too much flooding down there, and then also lots of mold, which can cause breathing problems.
You need your room.
You need your room?
Or is
Okay. Economic and legal issues. They exist in a netherworld, neither fully public nor easily solved by the free market, with high operating costs for cities up to $500,000 per year per facility. Pandemic's impact. COVID-19 shuttered many existing facilities, worsening the shortage, with some permanent restrooms in places like parking ramps remaining closed. Who's affected? The lack of facilities disproportionately impacts the homeless, delivery workers, drivers, and tourists, leading to public health concerns and people using woods or streets. Local efforts and challenges. Cities like NYC and Minneapolis are trying to find solutions, e.g., high-tech standalone units leveraging funds, but face budget constraints, past failures like unsafe porta potties, and logistical hurdles. Historical context. The demise of pay toilets in the 1960s, intended to improve access, inadvertently led to fewer free facilities overall, says NPR's Planet Money. Workarounds. People rely on maps like the Got2Go app, which crowdsources accessible places like bookstores, but accessibility isn't guaranteed. In essence, NPR highlights a systemic failure in urban planning and public funding that treats bathroom access as a minor issue despite its fundamental necessity.
probably because I have pillows underneath.
When you gotta go, the public bathroom problem, 1A, NPR. I think this was the one I heard. This was a 34-minute listen. Are you done? No? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. We'll give you some privacy.
Latin dictionary. Okay, where were we? Okay, here we go. Why don't people like using public restrooms? Cleanliness or lack thereof? Oh yeah, RRTA was having a problem with that before as well. When they had to permanently close those bathrooms for a while, and then they had to threaten that security would be in there to make sure nobody was, doing anything bad. As we know, not all public toilets are well maintained. Germs aside, walking into a bathroom and seeing stains, trash, or bodily waste space provokes a natural response that makes most people uncomfortable. If the restroom doesn't look clean, it's nice to have the option to avoid it. No public restrooms means the business doesn't offer a toilet for general visitors. The facility is for employees only, restricted to paying customers, or there isn't one available at all, often due to space, cleanliness concerns, security, or local regulations, though some state laws, Alley's Law, require access for those with medical conditions. Huh. Must allow customers with documented medical conditions like Crohn's and IBD to use employee restrooms. Interesting. Huh. hmm Wow. So, the public toilet seats have U-shaped um, toilet seats. They're open front, primarily for hygiene, following plumbing codes like IAPMOs that require it to help women wipe without touching the seat and to prevent urine contamination for both genders. Plus, it's cheaper and easier to clean. Interesting. Huh. Public restrooms can be costly and difficult to maintain. Without easy options, restrooms have often been deprioritized in local government budgets. What do Amish use instead of toilet paper? Amish people use various resourceful items for hygiene in their outhouses, often favoring natural and repurposed materials like leaves, corn cobs, old catalog pages, and newspaper sections, viewing store-bought toilet paper as a modern luxury. However, more progressive groups do adopt conventional toilet paper. These traditional methods emphasize simplicity and resourcefulness, with items like rags also being washed and reused, reflecting Amish values. Traditional and common alternatives: leaves, ready available, biodegradable, and soft. Corn cobs, dried cobs from harvested corn, were historically used and are still an option. Newspapers and catalogs, pages from old newspapers or mail order catalogs like the Farmer's Almanac are practical and free. Rags, soft reusable cloths from old clothing, which are washed after use. Oh my goodness.
It is shocking. I know residents actually.
Oh yeah, in Asia they use bidets, and then in the Middle East, water is used for personal hygiene after using the toilet. And then in Africa, they use wiping with water or cloths. Huh, interesting.
It's beyond scary. Beyond. I know. Yeah. I know. I forget the actor's name.
This is probably going to be another hour.
He was diagnosed with
At least.